married for 4 years. This year, Ezekiel finally had time to take me to see the Northern Lights. We had booked tickets to Norway, but before departure, Ezekiel canceled on me at the last minute. Last-minute business trip. I'll go with you next time. The next day, a video of Ezekiel on a date with his crush went viral. In the video, the pink aurora cast a dreamy, romantic glow over the man and woman. A netizen who watched closely left a comment. Was that woman who flashed by crying? Chapter 01. Before I turn 30, I want to see the Northern Lights once in my life. When I found out Ezekiel wasn't going again, I silently booked a solo ticket to Norway. In the snowy city, I ran into the two of them cuddling together. Miranda wrapped her arms around his neck. Her cheeks flushed as she leaned in, her soft, shy words reaching my ears clearly. Thank you for being so sweet, bringing me here to relax. The aurora is really beautiful. Ezekiel chuckled softly, his hands wrapped around her waist. As long as you're happy. My fingertips grew colder and colder, but I wasn't ready to give up. I tried calling him with a video chat. In the dark, his phone screen lit up. He glanced at it, frowning. He didn't answer, and simply turned off the screen, letting me stubbornly wait on the other side without hanging up. Miranda leaned in to look, her gaze sincere and innocent. Is that Selena? Why aren't you answering? Ezekiel reached out and gently rubbed the top of her head. No need to answer. She'll just start asking a bunch of questions and ruin your mood. Miranda giggled and dove into his arms. The snow was blinding. It felt like my eyes were suddenly burned. Chapter 02. Later that night, Ezekiel finally replied to my message. Just got out of a meeting. What did you need? I stared at the screen for a long time, and suddenly, I didn't feel like confronting him anymore. I turned off my phone as instructed by the flight attendant, dazedly staring at the snowy landscape outside. The flight attendant smiled at me. She handed me a card. So glad to meet you at 10,000 meters high. From all of us at International Airlines, happy birthday. Maybe she noticed my low mood. She came back a while later, her eyes smiling as she handed over a cake topped with strawberries. Birthdays should be happy, you know. And suddenly, my eyes filled with tears. Chapter 03. When Ezekiel came home, I was checking the schedule. The artist's next shoot was in Paris. Originally, I wasn't supposed to accompany them, but this time, I took it over. We leave tomorrow. Ezekiel handed me a beautifully wrapped gift box. A present for you. Edbiad Packaging, a classic Norwegian brand. I looked up. Your business trip was to Norway? Ezekiel froze for a split second, then quickly looked away, avoiding the question. Work's just been hectic lately. Oh, I hadn't realized. Since when did Miranda become part of his work? Seeing that I didn't respond, Ezekiel frowned. Are you upset? Because I wasn't there for your birthday? Uncharacteristically patient, he sat down beside me and lifted a necklace from the jewelry box. A makeup gift. Look, isn't this the one you liked? I couldn't help but speak with a hint of mockery. The red one I liked, isn't that around Miranda's neck now? Miranda even posted about it online. He said red looks perfect on my fair skin. Ezekiel froze. He looked down at the black pendant in his hand. His expression turned awkward. Why are you being so petty? It's the same brand, just a different color. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you overthinking like this. I've told you so many times, Miranda and I are history. Can you stop blowing things out of proportion? I didn't take the necklace. I closed my laptop and got up from the couch. An ex-female friend, watching the Northern Lights together. Just the two of them, and gifting her the necklace his own wife liked. Even the scripts I read don't go this far. Selena! He shouted my name, angry and flustered. I simply shut the door on him and started packing for my trip. Time passed. He knocked on the door. His voice gentler this time. Selena, come on. Open the door. Don't be mad. I'll keep my distance from Miranda, okay? I'd heard this promise more than a dozen times. Yet each time, things between him and Miranda only got more intense. At this point, his promises meant nothing. When I still didn't open the door, Ezekiel used the spare key. His face darkened the moment he saw my suitcase. What is this? Are you running away from home? He grabbed my wrist. Selena, I know you're upset, but I only lied because I didn't want to fight. It's not like I cheated on you. I was unusually calm. You're overthinking. I'm not running away. Then what is this? He dumped out my suitcase and suddenly saw the artist's schedule. A male artist? You're going on tour with a male celebrity? Are you doing this to piss me off? He sighed, then suddenly hugged me. Baby, don't be mad, okay? You're the only one I love, I swear. I stayed silent. He took that as me softening. He kissed my hair. Sweetheart, don't be angry. Once things settle down, I'll take you to see the Northern Lights. Chapter 04. When I met Ezekiel. I was still green and new to the industry. One of my artists had just gained a bit of fame and was tricked into going to a private club by a shady business tycoon. I went to get them out. Right in front of me, the old man dropped something into our drinks. With a greasy smile, he handed the glass to me and my artist. Back then, I didn't know how to play nice. Fueled by anger, I smashed the glass over his head on the spot. Immediately, several burly men surrounded me. That's when Ezekiel laughed from the shadows. He stood up and walked over. Mr. Song, no need to get so worked up. How about doing me a favor this time? Just that one sentence not only made the old man back off, but also completely won me over. When he was courting me, he said, I like how fierce and untamed you are out there. Just be soft and sweet only for me, all right? And I really did become sweet, even when people whispered that he still had a crush tucked away in his heart. I worked hard to stay calm, to show him trust, but what I got in return was lie after Miranda returned to the country. Suddenly, I just felt tired. The passionate love of youth had twisted into something unrecognizable. Chapter 05. It was late at night. Heavy rain poured outside the window. Suddenly, his phone rang loudly and abruptly. Ezekiel pulled his arm out from under my pillow. His voice impatient. Hello? The quiet bedroom echoed with sobs from the other end. Ezekiel, there's thunder. I'm so scared. Ezekiel snapped alert. He jumped up and instinctively started getting dressed, softly reassuring her over the phone. Don't be scared. I'm coming right now. He hung up, only then seemed to remember I was right there. He glanced at me. Guilty. Selena. Miranda's been scared of thunderstorms since she was little. I looked at him calmly. So? You just wait here for me, okay? I'll be back soon. I said nothing. A married man, running off into a stormy night to comfort another woman. Did he not find that ridiculous? Didn't matter anymore. I turned my eyes away. Go ahead. He finished getting dressed. At the door, he hesitated. Selena, you're not mad? If I were mad, would that stop you from going? Ezekiel paused. Outside, a sudden flash of lightning lit up the entire room. His phone lit up again. Miranda's sobs came through the speaker. Ezekiel, please help me. I'm so scared. Ezekiel's expression shifted. He turned to leave in a rush. At the door, he looked back and mumbled, This time, I promise I'll be back soon. And just like that, I was alone in the vast room. Even my own breathing felt loud. At 2:30 a.m., I got up and quietly finished packing my suitcase. By 4 a.m., I was in a cab headed to the airport. The storm was fierce. The driver, seeing I was alone, rushed out to help with my luggage. He asked with concern, Miss, traveling alone? No one seeing you off? I glanced at my quiet phone, pressed the lock screen. Let's go. Chapter 06. By the time I arrived at the airport, the sky had already brightened. The driver, seeing that I was alone, kindly got out of the car and helped me with my 2 suitcases. He sighed aloud. You're a tough girl. Really. Once inside the airport, I spotted my little celeb, Bruno. Seeing how much luggage I had, he immediately rushed over to help me carry it. So startled that his sunglasses slipped halfway off. Selena, all this stuff? Your husband didn't see you off? I was busy going through security, but turned around at his words. Just because there's no man in my life doesn't mean I can't live. Bruno slid his sunglasses back into place. He seemed to click his tongue faintly and followed behind me. The airport announcement came on. Ladies and gentlemen, Flight Law 793 to Paris. France is now boarding. Please have your... My phone started ringing right at that moment. I instinctively checked the time. 7:40 a.m. It had been more than 5 hours since Ezekiel left the house. I was in the middle of checking in my luggage. By the time it was done, the call had already rung 3 times. Ezekiel's voice was sharp and aggressive. Selena, where the hell are you? Why didn't you answer my calls? I hadn't even opened my mouth yet. The airport announcement played again. Ezekiel's tone shifted, now accusatory and loud. You're at the airport? Selena, you really went? You're traveling with that male celeb? I let out a soft laugh. Things have been hectic at work. I didn't tell you because I knew you'd throw a fit. Ezekiel, this is business. That familiar word, business, made him choke for a moment. He was fuming. How can you compare yourself to me? I'm a man. You're a woman. Going on a trip with a man, have you even thought about how that makes me feel? I could hear the sound of him grinding his teeth. Then a woman's sobbing voice came through. Ezekiel, is Selena doing this because of me? She wept heartbreakingly on the other end. Can't I just apologize to Selena? Tell her to come back, please? Being alone with a man like that is dangerous. What if something happens? Miranda stopped right on cue. I could almost picture Ezekiel's face turning black. He exploded. You're not allowed to go. Just stay right there. Selena, I'm coming to take you home right now. Bruno suddenly handed me a cup of coffee. His voice soft and tender. Lena, this is for you. Selena, Ezekiel shouted wildly on the other end of the line. Are you doing this to get back at me? You are not going. I'm on my way. I replied calmly. Maybe next time. I'll listen to you. Then I ended the call. Due to bad weather, the flight was delayed. Bruno and I waited at the airport, near the boarding gate. A man's voice suddenly shouted, breathless. Selena, where are you? Bruno looked down at me. I remained completely composed. Right on time. The announcement came. Flight Law 793 is now boarding. I stood up, leaving the noise behind me. Let's go. Time to board. Chapter 07. The plane landed. The weather had changed again. It was incredibly windy, so much that the gusts stung my cheeks. I turned my phone back on. A flood of missed calls came in, all from Ezekiel. I didn't respond. We found the pickup staff at the airport. They greeted us warmly, helped carry our luggage, and led us to the car. Selena, you're personally accompanying him this time? Bruno smiled. Selena really takes me seriously. That wasn't wrong. But paired with his smile, the words took on an ambiguous tone. The crew members exchanged subtle glances. Before anyone could speak, my phone rang again, loudly and inopportunely. I declined the call. The caller was relentless and immediately redialed. I answered. Ezekiel's agitated voice came pouring through. Where are you? You really went? With that male artist? A man and a woman alone together. Do you really expect anyone to believe this is just business? Selena? The wind whipped across my body, making the cold cut to the bone. Suddenly, I found it laughable. So you do know how that logic works. Ezekiel. I didn't go further, but he understood. There was a pause on his end. He drew in a deep breath. Miranda and I are different. We've known each other since we were kids. I only see her as a sister. Be good. Selena, come back. Let someone else take over the project. I'll buy you a return ticket. Afraid I wouldn't agree. He added. Don't forget what we agreed before we got married. You said you'd never mix business with personal stuff. Yes, I had said that. But that was back when Ezekiel held a high position and was known for keeping a spotless image. Forget taking a woman overseas. He wouldn't even bring a female companion to banquets or social events unless it was me. So I mimicked his casual tone. Bruno and I are different too. I only see him as a younger brother. Selena. Ezekiel broke. His voice came through loud and sharp. I moved the phone away from my ear, out of the corner of my eye. I saw crew members peeking curiously in our direction. I ended the call. Moments later, a WeChat message popped up. Selena, this is your last chance. If I don't see you come home today, then don't bother ever coming back. I turned to coordinate with the film crew. When I had a free moment, I replied, okay. Chapter 08. The filming of the new show started at a tight pace. I didn't have anything urgent on my plate, just handling press coordination for a few other artists nearby. Bruno suddenly ran over, his face full of apology. Selena, I'm still not used to the set. I messed up so many takes today. Could you help me run through the lines? I put down my phone. Suspicious. Why don't you ask your scene partner to rehearse with you? Bruno gestured behind him. She's shooting right now. All right then. He was under my management. This kind of small request didn't need overthinking. He handed me the script. As I started flipping through it, Bruno instantly slipped into character. Selena, his gaze deepened, focused and intense. I've always admired you from afar. Now that I finally stand as your equal, will you look at me? My heart suddenly sank. Without reacting, I glanced down at the script. In this scene, Bruno's scene partner, the female role, was named Yen Ji, so the Selena he called out was actually meant to be Ji. The next line in the script was the female lead saying, "Okay, I'd love to." But this wasn't even one of Bruno's scenes for today. I frowned and stepped back. But Bruno grabbed my sleeve. "Sis, it's your line." I shot back flatly. "Get someone else. I'm not rehearsing." Then I turned and walked away. Behind me, I heard Bruno mutter, "But sis, you graduated from Central Academy of Drama." I froze for half a second, then walked away even faster. I came on this trip not just for work, but to give myself emotional breathing room. I'm not Ezekiel. I can't tolerate any kind of emotional entanglement while in a relationship. That's a hard boundary. Chapter 09. The next day, some staff member, who knows who, posted that rehearsal footage online. The video went viral almost immediately. It was shot from a sharp angle that didn't show my face clearly, but captured every ounce of Bruno's intense, affectionate gaze. He was in the middle of a popularity boom back home. The comment section was completely dominated by fans. "Marry her on the spot. You know what I mean." I contacted my team right away. Put out a statement. Say the woman in the video is the female lead of the new drama. After a pause, I added, "Get in touch with their team. See if they'll cooperate. Maybe we can spin it into an on-screen couple." Just then, my phone started ringing like crazy. Calls from Ezekiel. I declined them. He switched tactics, video calls, WeChat voice notes. It was impossible to communicate with my team. I had no choice but to pick up. His voice burst through the line, a mix of shock and fury. "Selena, is that you in the video? He was calling you Selena, right? You let him call you that? Are you actually serious?" Right on cue, Miranda's voice cut in. "Selena, cheating during marriage? This time you've really gone too far." I let out a slow breath, then a faint smile curled at my lips. "Ezekiel, you and Miranda are really a match made in hell. A hypocrite and a manipulative witch." Ezekiel lost it. He screamed through the phone. I pulled the phone away from my ear. "Calm down. When I'm done here, I'll send you the divorce papers. International calls are expensive. Bye." I hung up. He didn't give up. The call bombardment continued, so I blocked him. Every contact method. He was right about one thing. All that questioning? It really does ruin the mood. Chapter 10. That night, after Bruno wrapped filming, he knocked on my hotel room door. He looked at me with a complicated expression. "Selena, why are you using this whole thing as a publicity stunt?" I stepped aside and let him in, then pointed to the laptop on the table. His new drama was trending, and the numbers were skyrocketing. My voice was calm. "I'm a businesswoman." Bruno pressed his lips together. Suddenly, hurried footsteps echoed in the hallway. To avoid suspicion, I hadn't closed the door. A shadow rushed inside, and the next second, a fist smashed straight into Bruno's face. He was stunned, but quickly responded out of instinct, swinging back. In an instant, the two men were tangled in a fight. It was only then I saw who it was. "Ezekiel!" I called his name and rushed to stop them. Bruno seized the moment and punched Ezekiel in the face. Ezekiel tried to hit back. I immediately pulled Bruno behind me, shielding him. Fury surged through me like wildfire. "Ezekiel, touch him again and I'm calling the cops." Ezekiel was fuming. "You're protecting him now? Do you even remember who you are? Selena? You're my wife." I turned and looked at Bruno. His eye was bruised and swelling. His lip was bleeding. In this condition, he'd be out of commission for at least a week. This was a high-budget production. Filming on location in Paris every day cost a fortune. A 1-week delay would easily set us back 7 figures. I was so furious. I actually laughed. President Ezekiel, what a show of power. It's not enough to cheat back home. You have to come all the way to Paris to assault my artist? Ezekiel looked around, his eyes bloodshot. You slept with him, didn't you? 5 million, I said, holding out my hand. Wire it to my company's account. Your personal violence, I won't be sharing liability for that when we divorce. Ezekiel clenched his fists tightly. You're divorcing me, because of him? I didn't answer. He grabbed my wrist hard, eyes bloodshot, obsessively pressing. Did you sleep with him, Selena? Smack. The slap rang out loud. His head snapped to the side. He turned back toward me, dazed. My voice came out from between clenched teeth. Only a dog like you would enjoy shitting all over his own marriage. He stood stunned. His eyes flickered. His tense body slowly relaxed. So, you're still hung up on Miranda, aren't you? She's not what you think. It's not like that between us. Look, this has gotten way out of hand. How about this, from now on, I'll keep my distance from her. Promises like that, he'd made them to me dozens of times. But disappointment had long since curdled into indifference. I looked at him with complete calm. Ezekiel, 5 million. Compensation. Chapter 11. I actually got the compensation from Ezekiel, wired straight into my company's business account. Bruno admitted it this time. I was someone who only cared about profit. He wasn't wrong. Relying on a man to survive is walking on thin ice. But money, if you don't spend it, it never disappears on its own. Since Ezekiel had followed me all the way to Paris anyway, I commissioned a domestic asset appraisal agency to evaluate the marital assets between us. Once I had the estimate, I printed out the divorce agreement and had it delivered to him. Ezekiel looked like he couldn't accept it at all. Selena, do you really have to be this dead serious about it? Yes. I crossed a line with Miranda. But aren't you and Bruno basically the same? Come on, baby. Stop making a fuss. I spoke up. You're talking about that rehearsal video, right? Ezekiel said nothing, but his expression said everything. I was silent for a moment, then pulled up the trending video from a few days ago and handed it to him. I was going to get a divorce, but I wasn't going to be labeled the guilty party. In the video, a man wrapped his arms around a woman's waist, under the northern lights. The two of them embraced tightly, their breaths mingled. The timestamp was clear. It had been less than a week ago. The bullet comments on the screen were flooded with blessings. I was the first to speak. With that much public support, it'll be hard to back out if you two don't get married. Ezekiel's expression stiffened. It took a while before he finally muttered hoarsely, "Baby, it's not what you think." Miranda was just in a bad mood that day. He trailed off, stuck. I looked at him with a mocking smile, waiting for the rest. When he said nothing, I helped him out. Miranda was in a bad mood. So you ditched your wife, and took her to the place your wife had always dreamed of seeing? Ezekiel's face instantly turned pale. It wasn't like that. I looked at him silently, curious to see what kind of lie he'd come up with next. His face turned blue, then white, then finally collapsed. Selena, let me take you too, okay? Just the two of us this time. I'll bring you to see the northern lights. We'll start over. You may not believe me now, but I swear, I've never stopped loving you. You're the only one in my heart. Please, give me a chance to make it right. His eyes were red. His lips trembled. But I only asked him one thing. Ezekiel, could you accept it if I were the one doing that with another man? He froze, looked at me, eyes pleading. I was calmer than I thought I'd be. I paused the video at a specific frame and held the screen up to him. But I guess I should thank the buzz around you and Miranda. It helped put me back in the spotlight for a moment. 2. The video froze on that second. In the foreground, a couple locked in an embrace. In the background, my own panicked, helpless face. The bullet comments also paused right there. One user wrote, "Is the woman in the back crying?" Ezekiel shot to his feet, horrified. You were there too? He looked like he couldn't believe it. His lips trembled, but no words came out. I gave a soft smile. So drop the act. Ezekiel, just sign the papers. Let me clear the way for your slut to move in. Chapter 12. Ezekiel tore up the divorce agreement. No matter what I said, he refused to sign it. But that didn't really matter. If he didn't want to settle, I'd just take it to court once we were back home. A bit more troublesome, but with Miranda still in the country, proving Ezekiel's infidelity wouldn't be hard. He disappeared the day after tearing up the papers. I didn't go looking for him. Once Bruno had recovered enough to be camera ready again, I handed over the Paris project to another manager and flew back. After returning home, I didn't go back to the house I shared with Ezekiel. Instead, I moved into a small apartment I owned before we got married. After unpacking, I lay down to rest. While scrolling through my phone, I came across one of Miranda's new posts. She was holding a necklace with a black pendant in both hands, smiling brightly. The caption read, "As long as he has it, and I want it, then it's mine." I left her a comment. "Sis, you forgot to crop the timestamp in the bottom right corner. What a shame." A post that was clearly meant to target me ended up backfiring. The photo's timestamp showed it was taken before I even left for Paris. Clearly, she hadn't been getting much of Ezekiel's attention lately. Must have been getting desperate. A moment later, a WeChat notification popped up. "Selena, what a coincidence. I heard you like this brand of necklace too. Looks like we have the same taste." Huh? Only I got it first. Well played. That message wasn't just about the necklace. It was really about the man, Ezekiel. If I reacted too strongly, it'd look like I was making a big deal out of nothing. But this time, she actually made me laugh. I replied, "Sis, raise your standards. Only dogs enjoy eating shit." She started typing, then nothing came through for a long time. Eventually, she sent me a photo. This time it was a shirtless picture of Ezekiel in bed. Miranda's voice message followed, full of laughter. "Selena, I really envy your career focus, since no one's there to take care of Ezekiel in the country. I had no choice but to look after him when he got drunk." I didn't reply. Instead, I recorded a screen capture of the photo, complete with Miranda's WeChat handle attached. Then I turned over and went to sleep. Had to adjust to the time difference. Chapter 13. I drafted another copy of the divorce agreement, signed it, and sent it to Ezekiel. I also took him off the block list. "Just sign it already. We were once husband and wife. There's no need to keep pretending you're some tragic romantic in front of me." Ezekiel replied instantly, "Selena, where are you? Did you come back to the country? Why didn't you come home? I'll cut ties with Miranda for good. I swear. Let's not get divorced, okay? I'll take you to see the Northern Lights. I've done my research this time, not just Norway, but Iceland and Finland too. We can travel to all those places together." I shattered his fantasy with a single message. My birthday already passed. Ezekiel fell silent. He remembered what I'd said. Seeing the Northern Lights was something I'd wanted to do before turning 30, and I was now 31. All those things I once imagined doing passionately before 30. I had done them alone. And him? He was out there having his passionate moments with someone else. Much later, my phone pinged again. "Selena, I don't want a divorce." I replied, "Are you unhappy with the valuation of our joint assets? I had the numbers assessed by a third-party firm. If you disagree, you're welcome to hire your own to verify it. As for the company shares, I'm willing to transfer priority ownership to you at fair market value." Ezekiel sent back a voice note. His tone was visibly unsteady. "Selena, you know that's not what I meant. Why do you keep stabbing me with words like that? I don't want to divorce because I love you. You're the only one in my heart. Can't you understand that?" I'd had enough. I forwarded him the screen recording of Miranda's smug message. "Ezekiel, wouldn't it be better to just make your little crush official? Or do I have to be the one to tear away your last shred of dignity?" No response on WeChat for a long time, so I sent him my final warning. "If you still refuse to sign, I'll proceed through the legal system, and if litigation leads to your assets being frozen, then I suggest you be mentally prepared." Fortunately, I'd come this far in the industry, without ever needing to rely on Ezekiel's resources. If this got ugly, I wasn't afraid of him throwing his weight around. Since he didn't reply, I had my lawyer draft a formal complaint. On my way home, I spotted someone standing in front of the door to my apartment from a distance. As I got closer, I saw that the ground around Ezekiel was littered with cigarette butts. That he managed to find this place didn't surprise me. I casually lifted the legal documents I had just organized. If you're willing to talk things over, that's best. Dragging this to court will be costly and messy. Ezekiel's face twisted with pain and helplessness. Selena, can we talk about something else instead? About that photo Miranda sent you. I was drunk, totally wasted. Nothing happened between us. I swear. He stared at me, forcing the words out. Can you give me one more chance? I promise. This time I'll cut Miranda off completely. Let's go back to how things were, okay? I waved a hand and cut him off. No, if that's all you came to say, then you can leave. There's nothing left to talk about. Ezekiel looked utterly crushed. He looked at me and asked, "Are you really this heartless? Can't you feel it? I'm trying to save our marriage. I'm really trying. Selena, let's reconcile, leave everything else behind and come back home. We can even have another child. We'd both make great parents." I let out a short, scornful laugh. A child? Ezekiel, there already is one. His eyes suddenly lit up with surprise and joy. Baby, you're pregnant? Right in front of him. I opened my folder and flipped to the back of the lawsuit paperwork. To the section labeled Evidence Submitted. The final attachment was something a private investigator had just obtained for me. Miranda's prenatal test report. I shoved the document in his face, smiling coldly. You're going to be a father. All right. Miranda's been MIA lately, hasn't she? She's probably hiding out, waiting to give birth and then pressure me into stepping aside. Thanks to the PI, I'd learned plenty about Miranda. She might not even like Ezekiel all that much, but she took real joy in stealing things other women cherished. The more outstanding her rival, the more exhilarated she got, as if that was the only way she could prove she was the better one. Ezekiel snatched the file from my hands like a madman. He read it closely, until his eyes landed on the gestational timeline. Suddenly, his face drained of all color. Doing the math, it traced back to the night he got drunk. He looked at me in disbelief, his lips trembling, eyes full of despair. Baby, my ass. I completely lost it. I slapped him hard across the face, snatched the lawsuit papers back from his hands, and didn't hold back. How many times do I have to tell you? Stop pretending to be some tragic romantic in front of me, if you're not ashamed. I'm disgusted. You don't want to sign? Fine. Let's go through the legal process. But don't even dream of disgusting me for the rest of my life. Ezekiel clutched his head in agony and collapsed into a crouch, utterly broken. Chapter 14. The next day, Ezekiel informed me he agreed to a divorce settlement. No need to go through the legal process anymore. The outcome wasn't surprising. I had solid evidence of Ezekiel cheating. Even if he hadn't agreed, the divorce was inevitable. In fact, if we had gone through the legal route, he might have faced more financial loss, and even risked the company's reputation. He's always been a smart man. The contents of the divorce agreement were basically the same as the one I had prepared. The only change was, Ezekiel gave me an extra 10% of the assets. I signed it immediately. We made an appointment at the Civil Affairs Bureau. His jaw was covered in stubble, eyes dark and sunken, clearly sleep-deprived. It had only been one night. Really, did Ezekiel not realize how ridiculous he looked? He stared at me reluctantly, voice rough. Darling, I did you wrong. I waved him off. 30 days later, we'll meet again to pick up the divorce certificate. His Adam's apple bobbed, but in the end, he didn't say anything more. 30 days later, I showed up as promised. He looked much more worn out. When he saw me, his gaze scanned up and down a few times, expression complex. Selena, you've changed. I had. Indeed. I smiled. Leaving you, not having to worry about all your drama, of course I'm in a better mood. He stayed silent for a long time. Under my urging, we finalized the paperwork. Once he had the divorce certificate in hand, he stared at my light, carefree steps. Selena, can I pursue you again? Please don't. I took a few steps back, which normal person would climb out of a shithole and then, without hesitation, jump back in again? Didn't you get enough of eating shit the first time? He looked at me, disappointed. I turned to leave. Ezekiel, see you around. I saw Miranda again. She had pretended to be a crew member from a reality show. I sat on the couch in the cafe. My eyes fell on her swollen belly. She noticed and raised her eyebrows proudly. It's Ezekiel's. Oh, I nodded. Congrats. She was stunned. Why aren't you jealous? Why would I be jealous? I smiled. I've long since divorced him. Didn't you know? Her expression froze. I understood then. What? Can't get in touch with Ezekiel? Need me to help you reach him? Miranda glared at me resentfully. Don't act all kind, he dumped you too. I looked at her innocently. I'm the one who divorced him, didn't you know? I stirred the coffee in my cup and asked curiously. I said when we divorced I was giving you his spot. What, Ezekiel's not willing to marry you? Miranda screamed. Bullshit. Furious. She hurled her water cup at me. I had anticipated it and dodged easily, then grabbed my own coffee and splashed it right back in her face. Miranda shrieked. She tried to lunge at me, but the cafe staff rushed over and restrained her. I pulled out a napkin and calmly wiped the coffee off the hem of my clothes. Oh, one thing I should kindly remind you of. I said, when Ezekiel drinks too much, he can't get it up. I smiled. Really makes you wonder how much that baby of yours is gonna resemble him. She lost her mind, screaming and trying to charge at me. I paid for my own cup of coffee and walked out. Wasting this much time on someone like Miranda really shouldn't have. With that time, who knows how much money I could have made. Chapter 15. Bruno's new drama premiered. It instantly pushed his popularity to a whole new level. Honestly, it earned me quite a lot this time, adding up all the assets I currently own. I'd say I've become a pretty wealthy woman. I also signed 2 new artists, promising ones. This time, I planned to personally mentor them. Coincidentally, one of the newcomers, fresh out of school and still clueless about the world, got tricked by a shady director into going to a private club. This time, not only did I go myself to get them out, I also brought along my newly hired bodyguard. Once I pulled them out of the situation, I laughed. Newbies don't know better. Sorry to offend you. Gentlemen, didn't mean to ruin the mood. I'll make it up to you next time. Really, my apologies. I led them out of the private room. In the hallway, I heard a woman's desperate voice. Why won't you answer my calls? Ezekiel, are you avoiding me? You said I'd always be the most important person to you. Now it's not just me. It's our child too. But where are you? And these bitches around you. Who are they? Get rid of them. Then came the man's impatient reply. You're the one who should leave. The woman didn't give up. Sobbing louder and louder, the man suddenly shouted angrily, Leave! The next second, a sharp cry of pain from the woman. The staff nearby immediately gasped. Call 911. A pregnant woman is bleeding. Club employees rushed toward the room. The place turned into chaos. The new artist clutched my arm. Lena, something happened over there. I turned and walked in the opposite direction. It has nothing to do with us. Let's go. The 2 rookies immediately followed my lead. We pushed open the doors. Outside, the neon lights were blinding. I lifted a hand to block them. Squinting slightly as I opened my eyes, colored lights sparkled along both sides of the street. I pointed to the brightest spot in the distance and said to the 2 rookies behind me, The road ahead can be bright and open. You don't have to trade your dignity for success. Even if you walk there slowly, step by step, you'll still reach your destination. The 2 rookies nodded seriously, bowed gratefully. Thank you so much for today, Sister Lena. I like people who understand how the world works. I smiled. Come on, let's go eat. Calm your nerves. We got in the car. Just then, an ambulance sped past. Its destination, the very club we had just left. My car drove fast. And as the 2 vehicles passed each other, the wailing sirens faded farther and farther behind. Story 2. In our second year of high school, Julia, a student who had always been supported by my childhood friend Eric, transferred to our school. She was plain, unrefined, and shy, but there was a cautious affection for Eric hidden in her eyes. Everyone at school laughed at her wishful thinking and kindly reminded me, "Zoe, be careful. Eric getting involved with Julia is like getting stuck with glue. Once it's on you, it's impossible to shake off." Having someone like that hovering around your childhood friend every day must be incredibly irritating. Yeah, Zoe, it's not about fearing a thief stealing, but fearing a thief always eyeing your stuff. One day, you'll end up losing to Julia. Chapter 01. The person who warned me with these words seemed to find it absurd even as they said it. So they added, "But it's impossible. Really, who would choose Julia over you? You'd have to be out of your mind." I didn't respond. Eric and I were childhood friends, perfectly matched in every way. He was a natural-born prodigy, always adored by everyone, and I was the school beauty, well-off, intelligent, and talented, in everyone's eyes. Eric and I were the perfect pair. But who was Julia? She was a poor student Eric sponsored, who came from a remote rural area. She was plain, round-faced, with dry hair due to malnutrition. And there wasn't a single admirable quality about her. Perhaps in a romance novel, this would be the beginning of an inspiring and romantic love story. But unfortunately, this was real life. However, Julia never hid her feelings for Eric. It started with her first appearance at our school, her rural appearance, her rural clothing, and the 2 huge burlap sacks she was carrying caught everyone's attention. She looked entirely out of place in our school, which attracted even more stares, especially when she dragged those 2 huge sacks over to Eric. When she opened them, they were filled with farm products, fresh eggs, peanuts, corn, melons, apples. She lifted her face and smiled at Eric, looking at him like he was a god, focused and reverent. She said, "Brother Eric, these are from my parents for you. They're all grown on our farm, very fresh. My mom said that farm produce in the city is all treated with chemicals. It's not healthy. Thank you for taking care of me all these years." That one statement sent waves throughout the school. It wasn't just the farm produce, there were also her words. Brother Eric and all these years of care. Those vague remarks were bound to make people speculate. Everyone's eyes naturally turned to the 2 of them. Ears perked up. Probably. That was when everyone who told me to be wary of Julia started disliking her. They all thought Julia was a scheming, pretentious coquette. Although they didn't believe Julia could steal Eric away from me, they still enthusiastically reminded me, "Zoe, you're too kind, and you let your guard down too easily. Don't be fooled by how pitiful Julia looks. People like her can be really nasty when they want to be. Yeah, just look at those TV dramas. There are plenty of times where plain-looking nannies steal the husbands from the wives. It's not about fearing a thief who steals once, but fearing a thief who keeps coveting what's yours. Every time." I would smile and nod, considering it a gesture of accepting their nearly well-intentioned warnings. That day, Eric probably hadn't expected Julia's gratitude to be such a grand affair. His gaze moved from the bags in front of Julia to her face, his expression cold and indescribably complicated. In the end, he politely declined. "No need. I don't eat these things. Thanks." Then, without looking at Julia again, he turned his head to me and said, "Zoe, let's go." After walking a few steps alongside Eric, I turned back to look. Julia was looking down at the 2 burlap sacks that had been rejected. I couldn't see her expression, nor could I tell what she was thinking. After a long moment, she picked up the 2 heavy bags and turned to leave with difficulty. There were people all around, but no one went to help her. Everyone looked at her with a mix of surprise and well-concealed disdain. She was so out of place here. I don't know why, but watching her struggling back, I suddenly felt a little sorry for her. Chapter 02. Eric's rejection didn't discourage Julia. Every morning after that, Julia would place a spicy tofu bun, which required waiting in line for a long time at the school gate, and a cup of soy milk on Eric's desk. That spicy tofu bun was made from a secret recipe by the shop owner, and even the elderly residents from the nearby apartments would come to queue for it. Every morning it would sell out early, meaning Julia had to get up really early to get it. The thought behind it was touching. But unfortunately, because both Eric and I had farms at home, all our meals were made from organic ingredients and paired by certified national-level nutritionists. At first, Eric tried to communicate with Julia. He found her eating corn on the cob, brought it from home to save money, and gently told her, "You don't need to do these things anymore. I really don't need it." Julia looked at Eric with soft eyes, nodding continuously. But the next day, there was still breakfast on Eric's desk. Eventually, Eric gave up. He handed the breakfast to a classmate in front of him and casually said, "Let her do whatever she wants." It was probably because of this that many people in the school grew more and more annoyed with Julia. The turning point came in the third week of the semester. During the second week, we had an essay assignment to write about the person who had the greatest impact on you during your life or growing up. Many people wrote about Stephen Hawking, Eileen Chang, Elon Reeve Musk, in short, all kinds of celebrities. Julia wrote about Eric. Her writing was very good, and her emotions were genuine. In her essay, she described the conditions of girls in her remote mountainous area, and how Eric's support changed her life. She wrote that if it weren't for Eric's financial support, she might have already married the butcher from the neighboring village. In the end, she wrote her gratitude for Eric, describing how much effort she had put in to meet the benefactor who changed the trajectory of her life and to bring those two burlap sacks that everyone else despised to him. In the last paragraph, she wrote, "Eric, you probably don't know how far I've traveled, how much I've endured, just to stand in front of you. Everyone has an idol they revere, but you are the hero who changed my life. You are my hero." This essay moved our language teacher to tears and stood out as the best essay, largely because it covered many aspects and had numerous points that could be promoted: the current situation of poor students in mountainous areas, the girl who made it out of the mountains, quality education development at our high school. Of course, these reviews were formed among the teachers. We eventually learned about the essay in the third week. On Monday, during a school-wide student assembly, when the teacher asked Julia to read her essay aloud, it was obvious that she was very nervous. She read it with a lot of stuttering, but when she reached the final paragraph, her gaze carried a hint of thin tears, and then it passed through the crowd, landing directly on Eric, who was standing next to me. She said, "Eric, you are my hero." I saw Eric's body stiffen. His eyes met Julia's on the stage, but I could only see the side of his face, not the emotions in his eyes. Whether this essay moved Eric, I couldn't say, but it did move some of the people who had previously disliked Julia. Oh my gosh, I was moved to tears. Me too, even though she always looked quiet and seemed like she had a lot of hidden intentions. It was actually touching. If Eric hadn't helped her, she would have had a really tough life. Yeah, it's understandable to fall for the person who saved you in a situation like that. It feels like we've been too harsh on her. True. Oh my. I'm even starting to hope she gets together with Eric. I know it's wrong, but Zoe already has everything. She's got the family, the looks, the grades, the popularity. But Julia, she only has Eric. This is like a fairy tale of salvation. Wake up. Gratitude is one thing, but this essay is an outright love letter, especially when everyone knows Zoe is Eric's girlfriend. Julia may come from a backward family, but she's certainly not behind in manipulation and pretentious coquette tactics. I walked past these murmurs without changing my expression, and standing by the door, listening all this time, Julia smiled at me. This was actually the first time I'd seen her smile at me, other than when she was in front of Eric. She always wore a silent and reserved look in front of everyone else. Honestly, I didn't dislike Julia. There was a kind of tenacity about this quiet girl. Even though this tenacity had infringed upon my territory, I still admired her for having a clear goal and for her unwavering efforts toward it. I don't dislike people who work hard for their life and goals. She looked at me, almost as if reminding me, and said word by word, "Zoe, they're not wrong about me. My intentions aren't pure." She paused, then continued, "I'm here for Eric." I paused and turned my head to look at her indifferently. I smiled, showing no particular emotion, and softly asked, almost regretfully, "Really? I thought you were here for education." This was our first confrontation. Chapter 03. I didn't tell Eric about my little exchange with Julia. To me, It was just an insignificant matter. The first time I truly took a good look at Julia was shortly afterward. One afternoon, my family was hosting guests, and Eric and I were too impatient to deal with them. So we stayed at school and didn't go home. When Eric and I returned to the classroom after lunch, we saw that the large classroom only had Julia sitting there all alone. She was bent over, pressing on her stomach. It seemed she was feeling unwell. She looked up when she heard the noise. Her gaze fell from Eric to me. Then she pressed her lips together and looked back down. Eric followed my gaze and frowned slightly, but he didn't say anything, just turned to me and said, "Zoe, I'll be back in a minute." After he left, I stood there, frowning, and looked at Julia again, asking her, "Are you okay?" She looked up. It was obvious she didn't really want to talk to me, but ignoring someone showing concern would have been a bit impolite. So she gave me a weak shake of her head. I paused, then let it go. Not long after, Eric returned with 2 cups of milk tea and a box of cake. I've never been interested in cake, so Eric handed me one of the cups of milk tea, then took the remaining cup and the box of cake over to Julia's desk, placing them in front of her. The classroom was empty and quiet, so the sound was very clear. I heard Eric say to Julia, "Stop saving money to buy me breakfast. You should be eating more yourself." Julia looked up at Eric. I could see her stunned expression, but she didn't say anything. Instead, her eyes filled with tears as she looked at Eric, as if she were a traveler halfway through a long and arduous journey, or someone about to die of thirst in the desert who had suddenly found an oasis within reach. That look made Eric pause. And then he explained, "Why do you have that expression? Don't overthink it. I just don't want you to get sick from saving money to buy me breakfast." Eric's eyes and expression were open and sincere. Julia's gaze quickly dimmed with disappointment, but she soon smiled at him and said, "Thank you, Eric." Eric nodded politely, then walked back to sit beside me, asking, "Zoe, where do you want to go this week?" I looked at Eric. I believed that Eric's concern for Julia was just out of camaraderie, a simple act of helping one another. Maybe it was because of the family atmosphere, and him being an only child, with countless people fawning over him from a young age. That made him grow into someone indifferent and distant to others. But no matter what, deep down, he was always very kind. I thought for a moment and replied, "Let's go see that stand-up comedian we both like." Eric smiled at me and said, "Then I'll get the tickets in advance." He placed his hand on the back of mine, warmth spreading from his palm. He looked at me with a gentle smile, so I smiled back at him. Chapter 04. The workload in our second year of high school was becoming heavier, and the much-watched drama involving Eric, Julia, and me gradually faded. It was like a play that began with a climax, and every moment thereafter failed to keep the audience on the edge of their seats, leading the onlookers to lose interest. This drama stirred again when someone found Julia's notebook. They opened it and saw page after page filled with Eric's name. The cake Eric had bought for her that day. After she finished it, she had carefully pressed the packaging into her notebook like a cherished treasure. Even though Julia followed Eric and me every day, even though she never said outright that she liked Eric, her crush on him was common knowledge. But this was the first time her girlish feelings were laid bare for everyone to see. It had been quite a while since Julia wrote her essay. People are forgetful, and they had already forgotten how the essay had moved them. Once again ridiculing Julia's unrealistic dreams, they all said Julia was a toad wishing for swan meat. By the time Eric and I heard about it, Julia's notebook, filled with Eric's name, had already been passed around. Someone asked Eric right in front of Julia, "How do you feel about being secretly admired by such an ugly duckling? Isn't it disgusting?" Someone else asked me, "Zoe, doesn't it make you sick to have someone like Julia hanging around you and Eric all day pretending to be harmless? You must feel disgusted too, right?" Honestly, these questions were annoying. They pretended to stand in solidarity with me, acting as if they were confiding in me sincerely. But really, they just wanted to see the drama unfold. I smiled silently at the person who asked, and they got the hint and shut up. Even if I had any feelings about it, it wasn't anyone else's business to comment on. Eric also tried his best to protect a young girl's self-esteem and her youthful dreams. He looked at the person asking, his expression growing colder, and said, "If you don't know how to speak properly, You could donate your mouth to someone who needs it. After that, no one brought up the matter to us again. The next day, Eric arrived at the classroom quite early. When Julia placed breakfast on his desk, Eric looked at her and said gently, "Julia, could you come outside with me for a moment?" Julia froze, glancing at me. I said nothing, and she followed Eric out of the classroom. No one knew what they talked about, but when they returned, Julia's eyes were red. After that, she stopped showing up around Eric and me. I didn't ask Eric what he said to Julia. It was an unspoken understanding between us, and since it concerned another girl's privacy, I wouldn't pry. Chapter 05. I found out the content of that conversation after the college entrance exams. It was probably the last time I saw Julia during our youth. She had changed a lot from when I first met her. She was thinner, her hair no longer dry from malnutrition, and she had a quiet and mature presence about her. She came to me holding her university acceptance letter, asking if I could do her a favor. She wanted me to tell Eric that she had gotten into college. It was a pretty good university, and compared to the fate she would have had marrying the butcher next door at just 16, it was already like defying destiny. I sincerely congratulated her and asked, "Why don't you tell him yourself?" Julia smiled, and I saw the self-mockery in her eyes. She said, "Eric told me that day he hopes I won't disturb you two again." I looked at her, and for some reason, I asked her to join me for a steak dinner. When I first took Julia to the restaurant, she probably thought I was trying to humiliate her, because we both knew she had likely never been to a place like that before. Perhaps out of a sense of defiance, she sat across from me in silence, trying to imitate how I held the utensils. But her knife and fork made a harsh scraping noise against the plate. I took them from her and showed her how to cut the steak. I looked up at her, giving her a gentle smile that must have been different from what she had expected from me if she thought I wanted to humiliate her. I said, "Julia, congratulations on your new life. This meal is my gift to you." Eric gave her a new beginning, and I was willing to offer her a small gift for her new life as well. These were things no one had taught her during her upbringing. I talked to her about relationships and social interactions for when she went to university, taught her how to get along with others, recommended books on etiquette and social interactions, and suggested that she try to gain as much new knowledge about the world as possible, whether through extensive reading or even her phone, with the lowest cost, compared to textbook knowledge like math or chemistry. These things would help her expand her social circle and transform herself more quickly, because in the end, all learning eventually boils down to constantly dealing with different people. And most people, see the value in you first before deciding how deeply to engage with you. As much as everyone longs for pure and uncomplicated relationships, the truth is that appearances often come first for most people. This was my blessing for her as she embarked on her new journey. Finally, I smiled at her and said, "Julia, I wish you the best in your new life." She listened intently, and it wasn't until this moment that she looked up at me. Her expression was complex, and just as I thought she was about to thank me, she suddenly said, "Zoe, do you think you're really kind?" I paused, stunned. A faint layer of tears quickly welled up in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. She just stubbornly looked at me and asked, "Do you know what Eric told me when he called me out that day?" Her gaze turned to the void as she spoke. "Eric told me that he was just helping out a poor student out of boredom. It could have been anyone, it just happened to be me." Julia, he told me not to see this as some kind of salvation fairy tale. He told me not to pin unrealistic hopes on him. He said he was sorry, but he would always only like you. You see, Zoe, I don't even have the right to dream about a crush. She turned her gaze back to me, her expression pitiful as she looked at me. "You spent time today taking me out to eat and teaching me all these things, and now I react like this. You must think I'm ungrateful, right?" I frowned slightly. She continued, "But how am I supposed to be grateful to you?" In my eyes, today's gift was nothing more than a condescending charity from someone rich. You never really took me seriously, because you knew I wasn't qualified. You never mocked or ridiculed my crush, never sneered at me, because you knew that you, and Eric, we're not from the same world. That's why you're gentle, kind, and willing to tell me these things. But I'd rather you were arrogant, boastful, and proud. I know many people laugh at me for not knowing my place, For being foolish. But what did I do wrong, Zoe? I was just hopelessly, foolishly in love with someone I could never deserve. I'm more aware of this than anyone. But that love pushes me forward, makes me want to become a better version of myself. Her tears finally fell. She said to me, Zoe, I don't think I ever told you, but I really hate that condescending attitude of yours. I suggest you don't be too nice to me. Someday, I'll become your rival. She stood up, looking down at me. The dazzling crystal chandelier above her illuminated everything, making her expressions clear and unhidden. She looked at me and smiled. She said, Zoe, today you taught me a lot, and now I'll teach you something. Some people, like me, are ungrateful wolves. No matter how much you feed them, they will never be tamed. Chapter 06. After that day, Julia disappeared. I mentioned to Eric that Julia had been accepted into university. He smiled, as if genuinely happy for her, and asked me, Zoe, did I change a girl's destiny? I smiled and nodded. Eric and I got into different universities, but luckily, they were both in the same city, even within the same university town. When I first moved into the dormitory and was getting to know my new roommates, one of them marveled at my childhood bond with Eric. They envied the steady relationship between Eric and me. Of course, rather than calling it steady, it might be more accurate to say it was natural by habit. Eric and I had grown up together, and during the age when love blossoms, we were seen as the most compatible couple by everyone, including our parents, who had paved the way for us from an early age. Our being together felt like the natural course of things. If nothing unexpected happened, we would get married 2 or 3 years after graduating from university. Eric would take over the company under his father's arrangement, and I would learn to help manage the company's affairs. This was supposed to be the most natural thing. The unexpected happened in the second half of our senior year. Of course, there was never any outsider between Eric and me. Both of us were people with strong boundaries and a strong sense of cleanliness. In the words of my roommate, Eric and I were pure love warriors who didn't match our appearances. But when I went home during the second half of our senior year, I suddenly felt lost. This sense of uncertainty began with a conversation between my family and Eric's family. Eric and I were about to graduate, and our families were discussing whether we should continue our studies abroad or come back and take over the family business. By the end of the discussion, somehow, the conversation shifted to what would happen after Eric and I got married. Of course, this was meant as a joke by the elders, but even jokes carried their expectations for Eric's and my future. Eric's mother said that we shouldn't go abroad and that it would be best if we started planning for marriage a year after graduation. A year later, Eric and I would have a cute child. According to my mother, it would be best if we had 3 children, 2 boys, one to take Eric's surname and inherit his family's business, and one to take my surname and take over my family's company. Finally, we would have a little girl, the youngest sister, who would be cherished by everyone. By the end of the conversation, everyone was laughing. My mother and Eric's mother were so excited that they made plans to go to the mall that afternoon to look at baby clothes. As if I were already married and pregnant, I took a can of fruit wine and walked away alone, sitting on the swing in the garden, watching the sunset. The evening glow looked like orange, pale pink, and crimson purple paint spilled across a palette, blending together. After a while, Eric came over to find me. I turned my head to glance at him. He didn't say anything, just walked over and sat beside me, then asked, "What's wrong?" I paused for a moment before saying, "Eric, I feel really scared." He turned his head, looking at me silently. I knew he had sensed my unease while the elders were chatting. He had given me a moment alone before coming over to check on me. He's always been so considerate. I looked at the sunset, the sky that was once full of mixed colors visibly darkening before my eyes. The orange, pale pink, and crimson purple were slowly turning into a dark indigo. I spoke softly to Eric. "Once I was my family's daughter. In a year I'll be your wife. And a year after that I'll be the mother of your child." I turned my head to look at Eric. He had been listening quietly all along, and I looked at him, asking sadly, "But Eric, who am I really? I'm a little scared." He got down and knelt in front of me, looking up at me in the dusk. His eyes shone brightly. He took my hand and said, "Don't be afraid, Zoe, if you don't want to get married yet, we won't. If you don't want children, we won't have them. We'll find the answer together. I squeezed his hand back, the unease in my heart gradually fading away. Eric understands me. I've lived my life for over 20 years according to everyone else's expectations. I don't want to accept the neatly laid out path. The prospect of spending the next several decades in a life of being a dutiful wife and mother. I look from now toward the rest of my life, at the road that was laid out for me practically since my teenage years, leading all the way to old age. I feel a sense of despair. Chapter 07. Time passed in the blink of an eye. When we graduated in our senior year, Eric and I planned our graduation trip to Africa. Before our departure, an issue suddenly arose with a business order for Eric's family. Eric's uncle suggested that Eric take the opportunity to gain some experience. I couldn't help much by staying in the country, and since we had already booked all our hotels, I ended up going abroad alone so as not to waste the trip. This moment marked a change in my fate. Eric's, and even Julia's, who would later be pulled into it all again. Though we knew nothing of it at the time, I fell in love with the vast, boundless savanna. From South Africa, Kenya, Zimbabwe to Tanzania, Zambia, I fell in love with the resilience and vitality of life on that land. Much later, I became known among all my classmates as a legend, though not necessarily in a good way. Everyone spoke of me with regret, because Zoe, who had always excelled in everything, suddenly seemed to snap after graduation. She went to Africa, joined a wildlife conservation organization, and became a volunteer for animal protection. My parents couldn't accept my decision. They asked me, Zoe, what's the point of it all? You're a pampered girl, exhausting yourself every day, climbing mountains and wading through rivers. What is it all for? For what? Honestly, I wasn't quite sure myself. It was just that the highlands, the dawns, the crisp and fresh air seemed almost tangible there. I saw millions of flamingos, rhinos, elephants, giraffes, cheetahs, hippos, lions. I also saw elephants with their ivory tusks brutally hacked off, rhinos with their horns forcibly removed, and the bodies of animals strewn across the savanna, casualties of poaching and hunting. Humans always call themselves the most intelligent of all beings, but I think that's an extremely anthropocentric view. The Earth doesn't belong to humans alone. Billions of living beings share the same planet. Yet humans, armed with technology and tools, kill them with impunity. I've seen elephants circling a young elephant's corpse for hours, refusing to leave. I've also seen a lioness howling beside the body of her mate, killed by poachers, before deciding to become a volunteer. I saved a monkey that had been abused by tourists. It recovered its health at the rescue center. When I went to see it before I left, it placed a banana in my hand, blinking its dark, wet eyes at me as if telling me to eat it. Due to abuse and prolonged starvation, it almost never had enough to eat and would devour food the moment it found any. That banana, it had secretly saved it for me. I cannot put into words how shocked I felt at that moment. Compared to the many faces of humans, animals seem more honest and real. It was at that moment that I made the sudden decision. When that thought boiled through every inch of my blood, I finally felt like I was truly experiencing the meaning of life. I thought, I want to do something I really love, so I went ahead and did it. Of course, it faced a lot of opposition. It was Eric who stood by me against all objections. He said to me, "Go for it, Zoe, as long as you love it." My family had no choice but to temporarily compromise, though a large part of that compromise was because they thought this was just a passing whim. During my 3rd month as a volunteer, my family grew uneasy. They hadn't expected me to persist for so long. They likely assumed I couldn't endure the hardship and would soon change my mind. Eric and I started our first ever long-distance relationship. After graduation, Eric slowly began taking over the family business. He was busy, and I was busy too. Sometimes, out on the savannah, there wasn't always a signal. We could only have video calls late, very late at night. Sometimes, while we were talking, I would get so tired I'd fall asleep, and when I woke up, I'd see that he had also fallen asleep on the other end, still holding his phone. But neither of us could bring ourselves to end the video call. Every once in a while, he'd ask me if I needed any supplies and send them to me, across thousands of miles. In the 4th month, despite his busy schedule, Eric flew to Serengeti to find me. He brought me lots of things, and we hugged at sunset. He lifted me up and spun me around. I buried my head in his chest, quietly listening to his heartbeat, and it felt like everything around us had come to a peaceful halt in that moment. Eric asked, "Zoe, are you happy?" I softly hummed in agreement. I took him to see the animals I had rescued. A Rappel starling flew over and landed on my shoulder, its blue-purple feathers shimmering in the sunlight as it curiously observed Eric beside me. I stayed very still, not daring to move, for fear of scaring it away. Eric's voice was also gentle as he whispered to me, "Can I touch it?" I smiled and replied softly, "You can try." He reached out carefully, stopping just short of the Rappel's starling. The bird looked at him, then stretched its neck, tilting its head as it brushed its beak against his fingertips. Before Eric could express his surprise, the bird spread its wings and flew away with a sudden flap. Eric's gaze followed it until it disappeared from sight. Then he turned to look at me and sighed, saying, "Honestly, Zoe, I've always supported you, but I never really understood why you made this choice. But now, I think I kind of get it." I smiled and asked, "Did my parents say anything when you came this time?" His expression was calm, giving nothing away, and he said, "No, nothing." Eric stayed with me for a week. He had a lot of responsibilities back home and couldn't stay long. I accompanied him to Zanzibar for a 2-day holiday. It wasn't until he flew back from Zanzibar that I started feeling reluctant to part with him. He stroked my head and said, "Zoe, I'm always here." Later, I found out that Eric had actually come at my mother's request. She hoped Eric could bring me back home, but when Eric returned, he told her, "Zoe seems very happy. Auntie, we can't take away her happiness." My mom sighed on the other end of the phone and said, with a bit of sadness in her voice, "Do you think I don't want you to do what you love?" She hesitated, then added, "Eric is a good boy. You're in a long-distance relationship now. Do you know how many women are waiting for their chance with him? He's a good boy for 1 year, 2 years, even 3 years. I believe he'll stay loyal to you. But, Zoe, distance is the biggest enemy of love." I paused, stunned, as if to prove her words. The next year, something happened to Eric. Chapter 08. During that period, I was very busy. My friends and I established a rescue foundation, and so Eric and I hadn't been in contact for a long time. Later, we received an honorary certificate from the local government. On the day we received the certificate, I excitedly sent a message to Eric, but there was no reply for a long time. He's probably busy, I thought at the time. It wasn't until the evening, when he still hadn't replied, that I began to feel something was wrong. I called my mom, and she said, "Eric was in a car accident. It happened 2 weeks ago. We didn't tell you because we didn't want you to worry." I stood on the grasslands, holding my phone, and felt my heart grow colder and colder, as if the entire world was spinning. But then, my mom continued, "It's okay. Just his arm and leg are fractured, nothing too serious." I didn't really hear anything she said after that. I hung up and immediately started looking for the nearest flight. I felt oddly calm. I calmly booked my ticket, calmly packed my things, and then asked a friend to drive me to the airport. At the airport, I got a call back from Eric. He was trying to sound normal. In the past, I might have missed it, but now I could hear the weakness in his voice. He laughed and congratulated me. "Zoe, congratulations." I replied with a soft mem, then asked him, "Why didn't you tell me?" The line fell silent. I said, "I'll land tomorrow." "Eric, I'm coming back," he finally said. "I'll send someone to pick you up then." After hanging up, I realized my hands were trembling. I took a deep breath and told myself to stay calm. I had intended to sleep on the plane, but my worry kept me awake, and I stayed that way until I landed. Upon landing, I saw the person Eric had sent to pick me up. I hadn't expected that person to be Julia. After so many years, it was the first time I saw Julia again. In fact, when I first got off the plane, I didn't recognize her. She had changed a lot. Her long, curly chestnut hair no longer looked dry and malnourished. She was much slimmer, with delicate makeup that made her stand out. But what had changed the most was her demeanor. The old Julia, although always quiet, had an air of constant unease about her. Now, she stood confidently at the airport gate, smiling at me in the crowd, waving at me, and calling out, not loudly but clearly, "Miss Zoe, over here." I assumed she was Eric's new assistant, until she took my suitcase and asked with a smile, "Zoe, didn't you recognize me?" I looked at her again. She was smiling, looking me in the eyes, examining my reaction as if out of curiosity, and said, "I'm Julia." I paused for just a moment before quickly giving her a polite smile and saying, "It's you. Long time no see." She looked at me for 2 seconds, then turned her gaze away and said, "Long time no see." Since I had so much on my mind, I didn't feel like catching up, so I asked Julia to take me to the hospital first. On the way to the hospital, probably sensing my worry, Julia said, "Don't worry. Eric can already move around a bit. He just needs a bit more rest to recover." I glanced over at her, and she smiled at me. It was strange. The way she smiled and her polite demeanor seemed oddly familiar, as if I had seen it somewhere before. She explained some of the things I missed over the past few years in just the right amount of detail. "I met Eric a year and a half ago when I changed jobs and interviewed for an executive assistant position. Just like you. He didn't recognize me," she said, smiling before continuing. "He had already forgotten my name when he finally made me an offer." I smiled and asked if he remembered the Julia he used to sponsor in high school. The memory seemed to delight her. She smiled softly, with a nostalgic expression, her eyes and brows filled with amusement as if she couldn't help herself. She said, "You should have seen his face then. If he could have backed out of the offer without looking bad, I think he would have done it right away." I paused and glanced at her through the rearview mirror. I finally realized where that strange sense of familiarity came from. She resembled the old me, the way she mimicked my movements, my expressions, the rhythm of my speech, and even the way I smiled. It was all how I had been in high school. She replicated it perfectly. For some reason, I suddenly felt a sense of disappointment, and even pity for her. I thought of years ago, when she stood against the light like a porcupine, telling me, "Zoe, one day, I will become your rival." The rebirth I wished for her back then wasn't meant to result in who she was now. I closed my eyes and leaned back against the seat to rest. Julia glanced at me through the rearview mirror, then fell silent. Chapter 09. When I entered the hospital room, Eric was still lying on the bed, seemingly on a video call with his computer. I could hear an employee's voice from the other side of the computer reporting work. Eric looked up and saw me, his eyes lighting up. He waited until the person on the other side finished speaking before interrupting, saying, "Sorry, I've got something to take care of. I'll get back to you later." After ending the call, he closed the laptop and looked at me, smiling as warmly as ever. He said, "Zoe." My nose suddenly felt a bit sore. His arm and leg were in casts, and there were still unhealed bruises on his face. I walked over, and he was half lying on the bed. I wasn't sure what to do. Julia came in behind me. She was clearly accustomed to doing these things. She adjusted the bed, walked to the side, checked the cup on the nightstand, then poured half a cup of water from the kettle beside her. Finally, she looked at the medicine on the nightstand, picked out 3 kinds, and handed them to Eric, saying, "Eric, take your medicine." Eric took them habitually. This must have happened countless times during the past weeks he'd been in the hospital, which explained their seamless coordination. After Eric took the medicine, Julia looked up at me, her smile almost like a challenge, and then asked, "Miss Zoe, would you like some fruit?" I didn't answer, but Eric did. His tone was polite but distant as he said, "No need. You can head back to the office." Julia glanced at me, then lowered her head and left. Eric and I talked for a while. I had been on the plane for over 20 hours, and after landing, I rushed straight to see him. It wasn't until now, seeing him safe and sound, that I felt at ease. I leaned on the edge of Eric's bed, and before I knew it, I fell asleep while we were talking. When I woke up, Eric was still looking at me. I had his coat draped over me, and he was holding my hand. I looked at him in a daze and then said, "Eric, I'm planning to come back." He was startled and surprised, saying, "Come back, Zoe. You don't have to do it for me. If it's what you want to do, you should know that I will always support you." I couldn't help but laugh. "What are you thinking? Of course. I wouldn't give up what I love." I squeezed his hand tightly. "I started an animal rescue foundation. You know, raising funds requires someone in the country to promote it. I'm not giving up what I love, nor am I abandoning those animals. I just found another way to achieve my dream." "Eric, who says you have to stay in Africa forever to help those animals?" Eric stared at me, stunned. I smiled at him and then said, "I've always worked hard." "Eric, you're so good. And I am Zoe. Also Mrs. Eric. What I want to do and my love for you have never conflicted." This was the first time I saw Eric's eyes turn slightly red. He looked at me, stunned, then suddenly laughed. He said, "Zoe." I held his hand tightly and said, "I'm here." I stayed for a while longer. Eric still needed rest, so I decided to leave and get some things sorted out. When I left the hospital room, I was surprised to find Julia still sitting on the bench outside. Who knows how much of the conversation inside she had overheard. She looked up at me with an unreadable expression and said, "Do you want to have dinner together?" She looked at me, then added, "Consider it a return for that meal you treated me to years ago." I couldn't help but laugh. Julia took me out for steak. She was now so familiar with the process, no more harsh screeching sound of a knife against the plate. She had adapted well to this dazzling world, far better than I had expected. But I knew she didn't invite me just for dinner. Sure enough, after a few rounds of food, she finally spoke up, her tone different from the provocation in the hospital, now filled with self-mockery. "Zoe, back in high school, I was like a rat in the gutter, secretly watching you. I envied you deeply. I was jealous. And yet I felt this unconscious inferiority. In college, I recalled your every move, imitating you bit by bit until I became a despicable, second-rate version of you." Julia lifted her head and gave me a small smile. "I wanted to transform, to become excellent. Even if I could only capture a shadow of your demeanor, I kept working hard to get closer to you. But then, they all said you were crazy. You went all the way to impoverished Africa to become an animal protection volunteer. At that time, part of me thought you were crazy, and another part of me thought it was a great opportunity. I approached Eric, thinking that after all my changes, I might finally get close to him. Have you heard the song Lightbulb? It has a line that goes, I deliberately play the light bulb, hoping that one day, when they're done, I can take over. I admit I'm someone who tried to take advantage of a vulnerable situation, willing to become the despised third party if it meant Eric would notice me. She laughed again, a mocking smile on her face. But no matter how much I hinted or accompanied him, how readily I came when called, he always ignored me. I could never understand where the firm mutual choice and trust between the two of you came from, and it made me hate you even more. I listened quietly without interrupting, because I realized that what I longed for, what I would trade my entire life to have, you were willing to throw away for a bunch of unrelated, distant animals. Do you know how Eric got into the car accident? He worked late into the night for months, trying to free up a month-long break to go to Africa to be with you. Finally, she said, maybe take me there sometime. I want to see that savannah you're protecting. They all say what you're defending is a joke. I want to see exactly what joke I lost to. I looked at her, and she suddenly smiled, a smile that wasn't a deliberate imitation of mine but seemed more like her true self. With all its sarcasm and thorns, she said, "Do you think I'm shameless, daring to make such a bold request?" She continued, calmly, "But you owe me. I took care of Eric for more than half a month. Let's call it a favor repaid." Chapter 10. Long after everything happened, I often wondered if Julia coming with me to Africa was a blessing or a curse for her. After confirming that Eric was fine, I prepared to fly back to Africa to handle some of the Foundation's unfinished business. As fate would have it, after wrapping things up, I decided to take a trip to Virunga National Park in Congo. It's the oldest ecological reserve in Africa, spanning over 2 million acres, home to more than 2,000 plant species, 700 bird species, and 218 mammal species. But in the last 20 years, Rwanda's long civil war had turned this once paradise of flora and fauna into a hellish place. Armed groups plundered the park's wildlife, and since 1996, over 152 park rangers have been killed. In recent years, due to strict conservation efforts, such poaching incidents had significantly decreased, and they no longer happened openly during the day. Julia insisted on coming with me. Perhaps it was fate, but Julia and I ended up in the middle of a shooting. When a poacher fired in our direction, Julia pushed me down to the ground. That bullet hit her abdomen, and blood quickly spread. She lay flat on the ground, staring at the sky, with tears streaming down her cheeks. In the end, she looked at me and asked, "Zoe, am I going to die?" As I administered first aid and bandaged her wounds, while also contacting the nearby team, I said calmly, "No, in Africa, strict measures are taken to control poaching. These scattered poachers don't have proper guns or ammunition. Most of it is homemade, and while it's dangerous, the wounds are not fatal if treated in time." But if she hadn't pushed me down, that shot would have been aimed at my head. Even if I had survived, I likely would have ended up a vegetable or paralyzed. Julia, however, seemed to think I was lying to comfort her. Before passing out, she smiled at me and said, "Maybe it's for the best, Zoe." I coveted Eric, but now, I owe you nothing. The next evening, as Julia lay in the hospital, awake and receiving Infor, she stared at the drip without saying a word. I stayed by her bedside. It seemed like she had given up, no longer trying to fight or put up a facade. With a cold expression, she said to me, "Let's just pretend what happened today, and everything I said to you never happened, okay?" Trying not to laugh, I peeled an apple for her. "No way. You're my lifesaver. How could I just forget?" She looked utterly fed up. She was more adorable at that moment than ever before. Finally, she said to me, "Zoe, do you know why I hate you? Because I've always thought you're a hypocrite." "And now?" I asked. She rolled her eyes. "Still the same." After a long silence, she quietly added, "But I'm really thankful to you and Eric. You both gave me a new life. I'm going to live my own life now. Zoe, I won't be trying to be like you anymore. I'm just me, just Julia, and I'm great too, right?" I handed her the apple, nodded solemnly, and said, "Yes, you've always been great." That Julia who traveled a long way from a small mountain village to get into the province's top school. That Julia who showed up in front of Eric and me with 2 large woven bags. She had always been great. She smiled and closed her eyes, ready to rest. I tiptoed out of the hospital room, closing the door softly behind me. Eric, who had heard the news, was sitting in the hallway. He mouthed to me, "Is everything okay?" I nodded, and he let out a sigh of relief, then looked at me with lingering fear, afraid, I suppose, of losing me. I stood outside Julia's hospital room and looked at him. I think fate has been kind to all 3 of us. Years ago, Eric saved Julia. Years later, the fairy tale came to life, and she saved both me and Eric. Who could say this wasn't a beautiful story of redemption?